Okay, so I'm going to coat this with vegetable oil, and I'll dub over and talk about that. I don't have my audio recorder, so it's going to have crappy audio on the sides. We're going to fast forward through all this anyway. It's already, I caulked all this earlier. That went pretty smoothly. Like so. And now we're gonna let it sit about an hour because there's not really anything else we can do with it until it starts to firm up. Action. No, flip the switch on. Right here. See that on the cover? Okay, well, I'm pouring this in. Come over here, fill the bucket to this line, right here. This rip, see that rip? Look inside, you can see the rip. You can see it on both sides. Okay. And then about 120 miles a week. We can't really do anything with it for probably an hour, hour and a half. I'm not exactly sure on the time, but I promise it's not in the next 15 minutes. Okay, it's been about an hour and 45 minutes, I guess, since I poured this. I had to run, go do something else. I'm back. It's been, let's see, it's about 5:30. I left here about 3:40. So not quite 2 hours since I left. It's been a little over 2 hours, I guess, since I poured this. It still looks pretty juicy to my eye. I can still see glistening on it. I've only got about 15 minutes or 10 minutes that I can work this, and then I have to leave again, and I won't be back. So I'm going to get this the best that I can. It's not going to be perfect, but it's just a shooting bench. So anyway, it still looks really wet, and I think it's going to turn creamy. I think it's still too soft to really get a super fine finish, but I really am not looking for a gloss mirror type finish on this. It's just a shooting bench. But there are a few voids right here that I see surface defects where bubbles came up. So we'll try to get some of those out. Yeah, that's still juicy.
He's supposed to look like that?
No, I've never seen a mummy look like this before. He's still...
Juicy.
Yes.
No, it's way too wet for brushing. And I don't want this brushed anyway. I'm not going to walk on it. All right, that's going to have to be good enough. That's just what it is.
Now I just have to tell the cats not to put their paws down.
Let's say run the animals out. Close that door. Make sure it's not at the Jeep. Close that door. Okay, that's all we're going to get done here. It's still way too juicy, and I'm going to have to leave it like that because we don't get to live here. So I'm going to go pick the wife up and go to the house, and that's going to be the end of it. We might get to stop by tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. We might get to stop by on our way to family, but if not, that's just going to have to be good enough. Okay, today is Saturday, and it's coming up on about 11 o'clock in the morning. I poured this Wednesday night, Wednesday late day, something like that, whatever, on Wednesday. It's been plenty set to break forms. I've got a few minutes, so I'm going to just crack the forms. The screws coming from the bottom will not be able to be released until I can get the tractor or skid loader in here and pick this up to access the screws from the bottom. But the form is still going to crawl away from the concrete. It's going to break cleanly. Fresh cat. Nice, neat, and clean. That'll work. Okay, it is Tuesday after Thanksgiving. This was poured the Wednesday before, so roughly 1 week. This is going to be getting stiff enough, cured enough that I would feel okay lifting it up and moving it. The skid loader is actually upfield at the shooting range for setting the other bench, and it's hundreds and hundreds of yards away from here. It's way too slow just to drive up to move this thing. So I'm going to leave this. I've got other things to do today. I started pouring or standing cinder blocks supports for the first bench top at the 100-yard mark. I did that, let's see what, Tuesday, I think that was Saturday. The wife helped me mix mortar for the blocks and get that set. She did a great job of consistently mixing the stuff while I did a mediocre job of stacking them. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the concrete mixer, and then out here I have I borrowed a baby mixer from the neighbor, and yeah, that's cute. I think if I plant that and water it, it'll grow into one of those. That's a horrible freight mixer. I changed the paddles out on that several years ago because it sucked as a concrete mixer, and I used it to tumble pieces off the plasma table in sandblast media. So if I have a bunch of small parts, I could tumble it in that with sandblast media, and we can zoom in on that. And that worked really well for knocking the dross off of small parts where it was too tedious to chip or hit with a flap disc real quick. Anyway, that's the full-size version, and that's the baby version. It's so cute. We started mixing mortar in that the other day, and I thought, no, this isn't really a good idea. So we wound up mixing it in this crappy old wheelbarrow. Actually, the little mixer is, we're going to use that today because the wife is at work. I'm at work at the ranch, if you can call that work. Some people don't. They haven't done it. Anyway, so we're going to take this upfield and mix some mortar and try to stack another 3 columns of supports. And I'll be also drilling holes and setting anchors. And I've got my hammer drill over here, and I found a dead lamb this morning. That really sucks. I hate finding dead lambs. Poor little guy. Anyway, I got the hammer drill ready, and we're going to set some rebar into the slabs up there, anchor those in with some landscape block adhesive, and we'll go from there. All right. It's been, today is Wednesday. It was Friday that I poured the, what is going to be the shooting bench top, and I'm out here in the field working on the slab that then everything will be built on. I don't know that it's necessary, but I went ahead and I dug pier holes. Thankfully, thank God, I've got a skid loader and a hydraulic auger. I've got a manual pair for cleaning up the holes, but in any case, I got 4 holes dug. I've got this formed up. I'm using 2x6s, which have a final dimension, vertical dimension in this case of 5.5 inches. I've put pencil marks on there at where 4 inches should be, and as long as I hit at least that, I'll be good. The next thing I need to work on is the rebar that's going to go in here, and I've got a welder generator over here and rebar on the trailer over there, and I'll be cutting it to length, and I've got a Southern engineered way of bending that stuff. And then let's see here in the corners, notice these stakes. I didn't realize why these stakes were so valuable, but they have holes poked or drilled, whatever, on both cross axes. So I'm actually able to nail through this. So what I did is I laid the form on the ground and then took the level and checked the level, found the high point, and I pinned it by putting a nail through the black rod there, actually on the corner over there. That's the high corner. And then I just come along and I set the level on the board there, and I just pull up this corner. This is the next corner down. I pull it up until it shows level, and I pin it, and then I came around and pinned it again there. And then I went and just did each of the 4 corners like that. Those rods are reusable, and they're kind of expensive. I mean, considering the quantity that I bought at $6 to $7 a piece, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I bought 16 of them, so that kind of adds up on the project. I think I'm around $250 in it, maybe $300 with all the everything. Anyway, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get the I've got plastic chairs to hold the rebar from a project from years ago. I'll get those up here and I'll start laying the rebar in. There'll be 2 sticks, 1 or 2 sticks, I haven't decided for sure, of number 4, that's 1/2 inch rebar in each one of these piers. Like I said, I may do 2. I'm going to put a 90-degree on them to tie them into the mat that's going to go in here. And then for the rebar across side to side and front to back, I'm going to use number 3, which is 3/8 inch rebar. And I'm thinking about doing 12-inch centers. Because it's such a small project, it's not a huge big deal to put the extra rebar into it, and I just like this to hold well and not crack and not have corners break off. I don't think that's going to be a concern, especially as thick as this is going to be, but still, it may wind up with erosion being unsupported at the perimeter and may mostly rest on the piers. So I'm going to put quite a bit of rebar in it. I don't think I'm going to hurt anything, but then I'm not a professional. What do I know? Anyway, progress. So praise the Lord, this is really working out well. And one of the benefits is that right there is where I'm making contact with the bottom of the hole. And what that means is that I'm actually shoving this. The ground is soft enough here. Normally we have just so much clay on this place. I mean, just miserable stuff. I'm able to shove that in mostly by hand down to the level of the chair. That's actually going to set the level of my mat, and I'm pretty doggone happy with that. So thank God, that's really working out well. Anyway, I'm gonna set. I've already cut and bent the next 4. Time to set those in place and start putting the mat on top of that. There we go, just like that. I got the other one done. The first bend there on the right was done without using that 1/2 inch gas pipe slip over, so the radius is a lot looser than what I get when I use that 1/2 inch gas pipe to just keep the bend focused in that one area. Anyway, 4 more to go. Okay, so thank God I've got plenty of rebar, and I want 56 inches of column. That's going to be blocks and mortar joints, and I want the rebar to stop about 2 inches from the top, so there's no chance that something doesn't measure out right, I don't get a mortar joint correct or something like that, and I wind up with a stub of rebar sticking up out of the top. So 56 inches, roughly 4 inches of embedment, that's 60 inches, and then I'm going to subtract 2 off of that to come up with 58 inches, and that's how long I'm going to cut these pieces of rebar. Another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to measure these, and I'm hoping to end up with about, I don't know, 8 inches, something like 8 inches of rebar sticks. But then I can drill a hole in the top and embed that piece of rebar in with the adhesive, and then flip it back over I'm going to set it on the top on all the wet concrete and everything, because I'm going to set these tops where everything's wet. Not the mortar joint, sorry, but while the concrete filler is wet, that's when I'm going to set the top, and I'm going to have at least 3 and probably 5 pieces of rebar sticking out of the bottom of the top, adhesed into place, and make that connection from the top to the columns. And it's probably not that really important when it's sitting on a bed of dry concrete. It ought to be plenty stable, but I can, and I'm not sure that there won't ever be enough lateral forces if I ever get cattle out here again that they won't rub up against it. I just want to make it as strong as possible, and that seems like the thing to do. I may be an idiot, we'll find out. But I'm going to measure these out for the 58 inches, and if I wind up with something stupid like 20 inches left over, I'll cut that down. Okay, we gotta go get the smaller caulk gun. Anyway, this is what I put those other anchors in on the other pad. Oh goodness, that's been 5-6 days ago at least. So we'll see how well this will clear. I should be able to pull that off, and I see that it's growing. Now that could be because it's been sitting out here in the sun and getting a little warm, but it's still juicy inside, so this is still going to be hopefully usable. I bought the great big tube on the second go round because it costs $3 more to get 28 ounces instead of 10, so you get almost 3 times the product for only $3 extra. So a $7-something tube that I'm holding here was less than 11, so I thought that was a pretty good deal. That should still be usable, so I'm gonna go get the other caulk gun and we'll dope these holes. Okay, so I got the caulk gun, and what I did when I cut these is I went ahead and stuck them all in the holes just to eliminate boo-boos on my part for cutting too few. Made sure I got the right number. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull those out of those holes. I'm probably going to leave, I'll figure it out when I get there, maybe too much of a pain in the butt. Leave these cinder blocks in place. I might move them. They're not true, they're not straightened up yet, but I'm going to pluck those out of the hole. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the snout of the caulk tube down into the hole, trying to get that adhesive all the way down in the bottom of the hole. And it's going to hydraulically force its way around the nozzle and come back up towards the tube on the outside. Having done this several days ago, I realized this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick the piece of rebar down in there and let it get kind of buttered up, and then I'm going to apply some more down in the hole and basically just keep working it until I feel like the hole is hopefully full of adhesive to get a really good bond there. I also spin and twizzle the or swizzle, maybe that's the better word, the rebar to try, because this stuff will is like taffy. It's sticky, it's very, very, very viscous, and it grabs around, and I'm able to get a ball on the end of the rebar to hopefully help carry it further down in the hole. I really want this anchored well, because at the end of the day, the only thing that keeps this thing really from getting knocked over from strong horizontal forces is the ability of that rebar to remain retained and restrained down in that concrete. If the rebar wasn't there, filling these with concrete would just make a tall piece to knock over. It's not really going to add any adhesion to the concrete slab, and I could try some admixtures for bonding of fresh concrete to old concrete. They do that in masonry work. I used to know a mason in Massachusetts, and he talked about using admixtures to try to get better bonding between stones and also mortar and mortar mix and so forth, and it seemed to work well. He was an expert, I'm not, so I'm going to count on rebar here to hopefully keep that from coming up out of there. That's ultimately it, is that as we try to press one of these columns over, everything from the fulcrum will be on the side to which we're pushing, and everything else will be a leverage trying to coming up off of the slab. So by anchoring these rebar pieces into the concrete, what I'm hoping to do is provide an anchor that you can't just pull back out. And any attempt to pull out is offset by the adhesion of the rebar into the hole. So that's what's really going to ultimately give us the maximum stability to this thing. And I don't think it's ever really going to see those forces. I don't expect to have cattle back out here again. But if I do, I really would hate to come out here and find that all this time and labor was for nothing because some animal knocked it over. So that's what I'm going to do now. This stuff takes forever to cure. I put the first column of blocks in. Today's Tuesday. I put the first columns up over there. I think that was Saturday. Days kind of run together. Anyway, holy cow, they were still a little gooey. Like 5 days after I'd put them in. I don't remember exactly which day I put them in. Anyway, it's a mess. It takes a while for this stuff to set up, and I'm hoping that when it's put into the concrete here, and then I pour fresh concrete all around the top of it, that's not going to retard or totally stop the cure. I don't know if this stuff will cure in an anaerobic environment. I don't know if it actually dries, if it cures. I don't know what it does, honestly. So I'm hoping it will continue to cure when it's encapsulated in concrete. Alright, well, good enough. So now I'll put this block back into place, double checking my footing, the area that's going to land on there, and I'm going to go ahead and get this other one painted for the perimeter. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this apart. I gooped up the front of it pretty badly there, and when this stuff sets, if it sets like the stuff I've used before, if they haven't changed the formulation over the years, it's there. Okay, so I got that measurement, and I'm a 1/4 of an inch under over here. No big deal. I'll move it. The real suck part of this is I'm going to lay all this out, shoot a little more paint around this thing. I'm going to pick all this up and get to do all this precise work when I set it back down in the mortar. But this is necessary because there's another step coming up that's actually I learned on the first one. Thank God it was a real blessing. It worked out like I didn't see it coming, but then I'm like, oh, well, that's neat. And I'll cover that when I get to that in just a few moments. So this is only the second project where I've ever mortared blocks, and the first one was back in 2002, so 21 years ago. And I remember that I did the job. Don't remember anything about it. I built a little well house here at the ranch when my dad was still here. If I really wanted to be super professional about this, I could get the chalk line and I could snap lines and stuff like that. But I'm doing this for myself, so I don't care if the paint's left over. I really just don't care. It needs to function, and paint on it's not going to hurt anything. It'd be prettier if I used blue chalk that would wash away and not stain, but yeah, whatever. I'm going to double check the square on there just academically, just because I want to know. And then it's time to start mixing some mortar. Holy cow. It's right. That's amazing. Awesome. So the one trick that I had mentioned in an earlier segment that I hadn't covered yet was, I don't know how much of a trick it is, but this is what I did, and I was blessed that it worked out like this from the first one, and I learned from it. What I've done out here is I put a level across the concrete pad and found that the course is not perfectly level. So I picked the highest block, and that's the first one I'm going to set. And I'm going to set that with mortar to 8 inches off of that slab. I'm going to measure that one corner. That seems to be the highest corner. And then I'm going to set it and level it. And then I'm going to set the next block over here on this right-hand column, which is what happens to be the next one down. And it's not a horrible little bit down, but it's a little bit down. And then I'm going to level it and set its height based on that big level, telling me it's level from the first block. So that first block is going to set my elevation for that first course. I'll do the same thing with the tail. And then I'll come along and I'll do 16 inches on the second course for that first column. And I'll use the level to set the course height for each of the next 2 blocks. And that's the way I'm going to go. So I'm going to have, the courses are not going to be 8 inches from the slab because the slab is not perfectly level. The courses are going to be 8 inches from the high point and in a nice plane with that. The other 2 courses will be, or the 2 blocks really, sorry, not courses, will be in plane with that first one. So let's mix up some more. Despite this mixer's small size, it does not mix what I would consider to be a small batch very well. So I've got it at a pretty good slurry right now, and I'm starting to bring the liquid level up to get it good and running, make sure it's got no clumps left, it doesn't have any clumps left in it. Now I'll start adding some more powder until I get close to the consistency. And also, with the experience of the first one, I have kind of a little bit of a clue as to how much I'm going to need. I really am not intending to mix up enough for the entirety of the thing. It does need to be worked periodically. It's got like a working time of an hour. At least that's what I read somewhere. But it changes in the 5 minutes or so it's going to take me to set that first block, get it level and squared and true and everything like that. It's going to change its consistency. not an expert. I think that's pretty good. I'll try laying the first block. I guess we'll find out. Just in case you ever think that stonemasons are stupid, they've got a lot of skill. Good people of Truro, Massachusetts. This is an example of go back and do it again. I'll have to dry that up. It's a little bit too squishy. I don't think it's worth trying to drop this back in the mixer to add just a little bit to it. That's what this tub is really for. Is for, I think, mixing it in these small batches. So I'm going to dry it up in here. It'll give me a little more control, a little less loss from what doesn't come out of that thing. That's it. Check this one again. That's good. Not good. That is good. That's good. That's not good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Alright, let's check that corner and check level. See if we hit our height. We're dead on the height, it looks like. Between the lines, we're gonna call that good enough. Okay, back with you. So the first one is in. The front to back level is not ideal. I'd like it to be centered between the lines, but it's between the lines, so we're gonna call that good, and I'll correct it in the next course. I don't feel like plucking that and doing that again. So now it's time to go over and set the other one. I'm gonna check the square across the faces to the one that I haven't moved because it was correct before. It should be correct now. I'm gonna double check that, then we're gonna go set the next one. Okay, so here's the 100-yard setup. This was blocked in. I can't remember now. I think it was Saturday. Today is Tuesday. Friday or Saturday. Whatever. One of those days. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, there that is. This one, as you can see, is 5 courses high. So we have a 40-inch deck before we put the tabletop, which is over there on the ground past the mixer, on top of here. As I'm about to walk around this, I'll go over this real quick. I'm pretty proud of this. I built this probably 5 years ago. This is the hunting shooting bench. I can put this in the back of the truck. It spins 360 degrees freely. The seat, as you see, goes with it. The seat pivots independently. I'm able to swing that out to wherever fits my butt right. And it provides a remarkably stable and super quiet. I mean, it doesn't make any noise when spinning. Throw that in the back of the truck. It's got a couple of pieces of chain down there where I can chain it down to the gooseneck attachment point so it doesn't flip over when I'm bouncing across fields. And I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so back to this. There are several challenges today. The first challenge is going to be that I have to mix up concrete to pour in all of these holes, and I don't know how much concrete it's going to take. I bought 4 bags, and I was hoping to do all of this, both locations, the 100 and the 220, with 4 bags, but now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, that looks like these 2 columns here are probably going to burn through a whole bag, every bit of it, and maybe more, and then one over there. I'm not entirely sure. So getting the mud mixed, and then I brought the mortar tub. I'll dump it out into the mortar tub in small batches, and then I'll lift it up. Lifting it isn't such the problem. It's getting over here where I can pour it into this that's the challenge. I'm not sure that that adhesive for the blocks was the wisest choice, because that still moves. It's been a week. Anyway, so that's one challenge, is getting the concrete into something I can lift in a quantity that I'm able to lift and manage to pour over into these holes. That's one challenge. The next challenge is going to be, I need to flip that thing over. That's 480 pounds of concrete, and I've got to flip that over and drill the holes in the bottom of it for the anchors and put the anchors into place. Flipping it, obviously, getting it up in the air is not too much of a challenge. I have the skid loader. Getting it to flip over and then lie down upside down without it hitting and snapping in the process of the impact of its own weight, that's going to be the challenge. 480 pounds, goodness gracious, man, that's 240 pounds in half. So if fulcrum is the bottom, which it will be, I have to manage 240 pounds. And I'm going to tell you, 100-pound tractor weight is not any fun. 240 pounds, I don't think I've got it in me. I'm not sure how I'm going to get that flipped over without tearing it up. So that's another challenge. Placing the dowels in there is not going to be a challenge. But then the next challenge is, once that has dowels sticking out of it, I'm going to fly that thing over here and set it on these. I'm going to fill these pockets first with a pretty loose mix, and then towards the top, once I've vibrated that down, I'm going to fill maybe the last block with a stiffer mix. And what I intend to do is have a dome of concrete here that's going to act not only as the concrete inside, of course, but it's also going to be the mortar between the columns and the top. And I don't expect it to adhere well. That's not the real retention mechanism. The retention mechanism is the doweled in rebar to keep, like, thermal creep, hot and cold cycles, expand and contract throughout the years. I don't want it to start walking off of here. The animals are not going to press this high up unless I get cattle out here. The cattle could press this high up. The biggest concern will be, like I said, I think thermal creep. So I'm going to dowel it in, and we're just going to hope and pray. And I may change my mind on that landscape adhesive. I may adhese these dowels in with something different. I may go to the hardware store and get something different. But that's what's up. Got to fill these, first challenge. Second challenge is to get not much of a challenge. It's very easy to place, but I don't want to drill through the top. And the big challenge is going to be to fly it over here and get it to drop into place just by myself. I've got no one to spot for me. to tell me, exactly where I am. So it'll be in and out of the skid loader as I try to fly this thing and set this thing in here. Let's see. I need to vibrate the concrete. And I got a vibrator from the neighbor who used to do industrial rebar tying, things like sections of interstate highways and stuff like that. And the vibrator is just too doggone big. The barrel on that thing has got to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 3/4 inches. I'm thinking it's every bit of 1.5 inches. And I don't know that there's sufficient room to really drop that down. The sunlight isn't working with me here. Put my finger on top of that rod. You might be able to see that little spot right there. That's going to be a neat trick. It wouldn't fit. And then I also worry about the violence of that vibrator. It's a large unit. It's a Wacker-Neuson, and it looks big to me. What do I know? But it looks big. And what I'm afraid is that the vibration will be so violent that it may actually impact the side here and cause the mortar joints to break, or even break the block. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to take the hammer drill there, and I'm going to cut a piece of rebar that sticks out of each of these holes 2 or 3 or 4 inches. I'm going to chuck that rebar up in the drill, set it on the hammer function, hammer drill, and let it spin and vibrate. Stick it all the way down until it hits the concrete slab, and that should give me pretty good hammer action. By itself, if you just spin it freely, it just spins. This type of hammer drill, anyway. It doesn't actually have it's not like an SDS drill where it actually has a dedicated hammer function. It's going to move hammer whether it's touching something or not. This one doesn't seem like it hammers at all unless you put load against the chuck. So the load will be down there in the bottom, pressing against the concrete slab, and we're going to see how that works. Okay, I've got a plan. I'm going to take that and set that down and work it over with the skid loader until it starts to come up. And then at some point, I'm going to have to grab it when most of its weight is down on the fulcrum point, so I'm not having to move so much weight. I'm going to flip it over there. There's a pile of loose dirt that I excavated when I leveled this pad site. And that loose dirt is going to be a soft cushion, so if I can't manage the weight as it comes over, it gets away from me, it's going to be hitting soft dirt, and it won't have to go as far because that dirt mound is about 12 to maybe 14 inches tall. So we'll see how this goes. Cool, well thank Jesus, that actually worked well. I prayed about that one. That was nerve-wracking. I really don't want to break it. After I pour one of these things, I need to let it sit for at least a week to get stiff enough to be to where I can handle it. This has been poured over 2 weeks ago. It'd be a huge setback to break it at this point. So what I've achieved here, I'll take you with me. Let's walk over. Oh, wrong thing. Okay, here's what I've achieved, is now it's off the ground and I'm looking at the bottom side. So I can drill and set my rebar pins in the concrete like this. What I've done is I've set it up on blocks like so, where what'll happen is I'll be able to pick this thing up and pivot it on this edge right back along here. And as it comes over, the dowels, which are only going to stick out about 6 inches or so, are not going to break off on the ground. If the fulcrum was actually on the ground, which is going to be that lower edge right along here, if that was actually on the ground, as it comes over, it would try to wipe those dowel rods off. And I was like, how am I going to get past that? So I put it on blocks like this, so the fulcrum is actually elevated. So as it comes over, as it rolls over in this top edge, becomes the fulcrum as it goes over, it should keep those dowels from striking anything, hopefully. We'll see. A few minutes ago, I did call the neighbor before I started flipping this thing over and asked him, hey, what would you recommend to anchor this stuff? Because I'm really not happy with that landscape adhesive. And he said they always used epoxy. So I'm going to have to stop here, unfortunately, run into town, find hopefully what I'm looking for, even if it is the true concrete anchor adhesive, and hope and pray that it is. And hopefully I can find like some just, 5-minute or 30-minute epoxy. It's not a hobby shop, so I don't know if I'll find that. And I'm going to epoxy these things into place.
You have chosen wisely.
The only other epoxy product that I know where is and that it's good is it has a set time of like 24 hours. It's nuts. It's for doing like fiberglass work, and it's not a fast setting, and I'm not waiting 24 hours. It's supposed to rain tomorrow night. So I'm going to run to town, see what I can find there, and we'll get these pins put into place. Okay, so I'm back from the hardware store. Praise the Lord, I got a blessing. I went to get 2 tubes of this stuff, and they had misstocked one different product in the same place as this one, so I went to get 2 of these, and I got 2 tubes, then rang up at a different price. I'm like, what the heck? What's up with that? So I went back to the aisle to get another one of these, and one of the girls working there followed me along and saw that they were misstocked. And then we saw this one was broken. It's supposed to have 2 of these little snouts, and it only has 1, and this one is broken. And the manager is the son of the owner, so he's got plenty of authority, and he just said, give it to me. So I bought one, and I got one for free. If I can get it all done with the one I got for free, I can take the other one back, because it's $28 for that tube. Lowe's sells them for, I don't know, $5 or $6 less. Same product, same thing, except Lowe's is half an hour away. So I'm not going to Lowe's. So I just trimmed off the broken portion right there. And well, we'll see how this works. I should have done this all along. If I'd planned ahead, what I would have done, because I talked to the neighbor, he said epoxy. What I should have done is just bought some cheap 5 or 15, 30-minute epoxy on Amazon, and but I don't have time to wait for that crap. I need to get this done. So anyway, thank God, maybe I'll get it done for free. So I'm going to drill 5 holes out here. I've already got the spots marked. I've got the drill, used a Sharpie marker, marked the depth. We'll see how well that goes. I just don't want to poke a hole through the top and pray that I don't hit any of the rebar in the process, because that, as I've said in another segment, that just sucks. Okay, so those 2 are good. The one over here on the corner is a little bit off. This one's horribly off, so I'm going to take the tape measure and see if I can move that and get another hole and still stay in the pocket where I need to be. Yeah, thank God. That's awesome. That'll work. So now what I have to do is I have to go get the other top. Now that part sucks. It's still on the form up at the shop. So I have to take the skid loader up there at like 8 miles an hour. Pick that thing up, take the form the rest of the way off, bring it out here and do the same thing, because I'm going to do one run on this this adhesive. It's some kind of, I don't know what it is, but it only has like 15 minutes of work time and then 15 minutes of set time, so I don't have enough time to, and I've only got one mixing nozzle. If I'm going to get this done for one tube that I got here, I need to get that done all at one time. So stop this and I'll go get that. Okay, same thing. I got this one up here. I took the perimeter board form boards off, but I haven't taken the bottom part off yet. Same thing we did before. Set it, pivot it, flop it, and then I'll have to get some more concrete blocks over here. I didn't plan that ahead. And we'll be ready to hopefully throw anchors or pins in these things. I've still got to cut a few more pins. You may have noticed that the bench top slid off the board when I got it pivoted far enough over. The vegetable oil seems to be doing a good job of keeping it from sticking, but I can't be certain that it's the oil. That without it, it would not have worked just the same. I don't know. I can say that one of the 90 degrees in here, which has been beveled off with a chunk of wood, the concrete peeled off and stayed with the form board, which is atypical. And I wonder if either something in the caulk, because I had buttered that with caulk because I needed to fill in the void a little bit, or if the vegetable oil didn't maybe retard the cure. Since it didn't do it everywhere, I don't think it's the vegetable oil, but something wasn't right, because I've got a corner that I can see from here that it's the inside corner where the top of the T meets the tail, that it's supposed to be 45 degrees and it's supposed to be smooth, and it's not smooth. A bunch of that, a surface layer of that concrete came away with the form board. So anyway, same thing as before. One of the things I did just for fun, now this is a lot greener than the other one. This is only like been poured maybe, I think tomorrow makes a week. Maybe today's a week. One of the things that I tried here is I 3D printed a piece and I inset that into the concrete. So I'm gonna excavate that plastic piece there and see if it left this labeled as I wanted it to be labeled. So I'll find out in a few minutes. Okay, time to put the anchors in. I just finished cutting a few more. I've got them. You can see that one over there is on the forks. This one's up on the blocks. I'll have to get other blocks up here. It's about time to shut down and go meet the wife for lunch, but I want to get these stuck first. Okay, so it's some kind of a pluralized component. Looks like got two different chemicals perhaps in there, with the black and the tannish gray. So now what we're supposed to do is cut that off and then put the snout on it. Yes, definitely. We've got a second component in the center with a perimeter of this other one, it looks like. Okay, the instructions say to run some of this through here and run a little bit out on the, just waste some of it. There, I see the tan is now coming into it. So this is all going to be the secondary component. So we're going to waste that until we get that mix coming through. And that's looking pretty good. Right about there. I think that's good enough. That's looking good. So I'll do it just like I did the other ones. I'll twizzle it around, work it in and out a little bit. I caught rebar here, so I had to move it over. That's why I've stuck all these pins so I know exactly where to put the darn things. Cool. Well, thank Jesus. That's an answer to prayer. I did not use all of it by any means. I've still got quite a bit of product there. I don't have any other use for it, so it's just going to go bad. But I can take the other two back, and that's $28 plus tax. So that's pretty awesome. I should have used this in the first place, or just regular epoxy. This was going to be a better product for this application. That's what I should have put all of them in with. Oopsies. Now let's go back along here and dress these up. Make sure that they're square. Wow, it's already stiffening up. Holy crap, that one's set. That one's not going anywhere. That one had a little more of the black, which I'm assuming is the hardener in it. It's a little darker gray than the rest of them. And it is, it's done. Okay, I think that's good enough. It's time for lunch. Those should be fully set up by the time I get back, an hour. Then I gotta see if I can mix up concrete and get these things, at least get this one filled and sat before it's time to leave. Oh, we'll see how this goes. This may be an epic failure, but we're gonna try it. Thank Jesus, that worked out well. Okay. Thank God that worked out well. Okay, I've got to leave enough room in front of the forks. I've got to slide it a little bit. Alright, thank God, that's good. That's good. Okay, so the next thing, I've got to mix up some loose concrete, start filling these columns, so I'm going to stop this and do that. Okay, package directions say to use 3.5 quarts of water for 1 bag of concrete. I'm going to be using close to 4 quarts of water and see if it's sloppy enough that I feel it's going to really set down inside these columns and more or less self-level and require less vibration. They'll be a little bit weaker, but I think this is all over-engineered. So I'm going to dump the water in, get this thing spinning. I'm going to dump bits and pieces into the mortar tub, use the mortar tub as the transfer vessel, carry up and try to dump it in there. When I get near the top, maybe in the last 8 inches, I don't know for sure, we'll see how it plays out. I intend to pour a little bit of a stiffer mix because at the top, I want to have a dome on top of this that the top is going to settle into. The top is going to wind up not being perfectly level, and that's okay because I don't do anything that's perfect. The other thing is, I want this to act as its own kind of mortar. That's going to be the bed, the concrete. The wet concrete is going to be the bed that this is actually going to sit on, hopefully leaving a gap, just like a mortar line, between the block and the top. We'll see how this works. I've not done this before. This is a wee bit of a problem. I budgeted 4 bags. I bought 4 bags. Whatever. Thought it was going to take 4 bags. One of them's got a hardened up corner. That's low as it was exposed apparently and got set. So I really only have like 3 3/4 bags, and I'd like to take that one back and exchange that for a full sack. It's not set. And that's a whole bag in that corner, that one column. We're not near done. Dang it, I should have bought more. 2 bags wouldn't quite have filled those first 2 holes in this 1 block column. That's disappointing. Like I said, I've got one that's got a hardened spot, so I don't have 2 more bags, and then I still won't have enough of this. So what I'm gonna have to do, because it's gonna be 2 hours before I get back once I leave, it's gonna be setting. What I'm gonna do is fill that up to just below that block joint on the top block, put as much as I can in this one. That's gonna leave me 10, maybe 12 inches for a cold joint at the concrete, but still to have a good solid bond to the rebar. And well, it just never was going to be perfect. Okay, this is where the magic happens. Either it's going to happen or it's not. Concrete's now filled up. I had to make another trip to town, get a few more bags. Thank God it's close. Got them overfilled, as you can see there. Hopefully this is going to come along, sit down, and squish that out. And I'll massage that with a blade if I have to. Okay, so yesterday I missed the money shot on setting the top on this thing, on the other one, it's off in the distance. Battery ran out. I didn't realize until I was done. So I'm gonna try to catch this one today. Today the forecasters do what they do best, which is to be wrong, and it's been misting all morning. Bags of concrete got wet. You can see there's quite a bit of powder spilled back here. Sakrete doesn't care enough about you to put a plastic liner, as I seem to recall Quikrete does. So the bags are soaked through and through and weakened. Yeah, anyway, so I'm about to stab this one. All the nasty gap. All the columns are filled except for about the last 8 to 10 inches. We've got the mixer running with some more over there. The top has already been flipped over and is ready to be laid on top. And so I forgot the tripod up at the shop, and that's hundreds of yards away, and I haven't got time for this. I've got other stuff I gotta go do as soon as I get this done. So I'm gonna set this over here on the side rail and let this run while I try. Man, that's not worth a darn. Wow, well that sucks. I'm gonna be about a half bag shy. Not even a half bag. Praise the Lord, that was easy. Sort of. Oh, cool, thank God, that's it. Time to clean up tools and go do other stuff because this is just mist. The heavy stuff's coming down later. At least if the forecast is right. Don't know when it really ever is.